Welcome back to Fuller Speed Ahead. We pick back up with my father, Max Fuller, for part 3 of our conversation about his father, Clyde Fuller, and our family history in the trucking industry. Enjoy.
In the mid-1970s, cowboys, Wild West of trucking.
But keep in mind, this is how companies were being grown back then.
Yeah, I get it.
It was very common for the trucking industry to go through the same cycle. My dad wasn't the only one doing that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it reminds me of
carriers.
I was in financial services, and it reminds me of a lot of these payment companies and crypto companies that are sort of in this gray area of the law. And some of the incumbents want them to be shut down because they find what they're doing is unsavory.
Right.
But then there are these technicalities in the law that allow for it, and it's sort of undefined. It's sort of legal until it's not kind of view by entrepreneurs.
It's legal until you know it's not.
And so until this stuff gets litigated, nobody knows whether it's legal or not.
Right.
So we're in the mid-1970s. You got this business. What is you get put on notice by Mr. Commissioner Yalowitz, is his name?
Yeah.
And he's like,
I remember that name very well.
Okay. You kept your eye on him, or he kept his eye on you. All right, so we're in the 1970s. What's going on?
Well, then, there's a lot of things going on with the interstate system being created, started in the late 50s, but really a lot of it didn't get close to completion until the mid 70s.
Yeah.
So that basically opened up kind of the world, or at least the whole country.
It's a fast growth business at this point, right?
So you could grow fast, you could haul freight, instead of being very regional, like most trucking companies were, now you can go all the way to California from the state of Tennessee.
Just on I-40.
I-40, and you could do it like with a team, you could do it in 2.5 days, pretty easy, and pretty well stay legal.
The railroads are kind of a mess, right?
Well, the railroads have always been kind of a mess. They've gone through their ebbs and flows.
Not anymore. I mean, the railroads
they've got their act together today, but they went through a lot of consolidation over the years, and I'm talking about all the way through the 90s and early 2000s. But if you go back and look at the 70s, they really weren't a player. They were for very, very, very slow moving product.
Got it.
And so, and that's where a lot of the agricultural stuff went, was that side.
Because it's cheap.
Because it was cheap.
To haul, right?
Yeah. And that's
intermodal boxes wasn't even a thing.
No, not in the 70s.
Like a container, was invented in the 50s, but it's really ocean freight.
Right.
It's not really going across the country.
Well, containers weren't created until probably the early 80s.
Well, maybe in intermodal, but containers were coming in the 1950s. Containerization was in 1950. It was McLean trucking.
But I'm talking about for rail.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So the rail intermodal container was the factor. Which is interesting. So we're in the 70s. We've got our freight moving. Business is good. What is that like right then in terms of the market?
The market's pretty good. Like I said, a lot of growth and new opportunities, because instead of having stuff that's just grown like in Tennessee, now we have stuff from California. We'd have it from different parts of the country. So that just really opened up a lot of new things.
Grocery stores are changing. They've got food from all over
They're
the country.
evolving.
This is a wonderful time. It's like advancements in technology and quality of life.
Well, and we're up to the point that my dad bought Southwest, or I bought Southwest, and we're growing relatively fast. Well, in order to make some side money, I ended up buying my own trucks and leasing them to Southwest Motor Freight under their authority.
Okay.
And so I was running a side company along with helping my dad build his company. And this side company was running under his authority, so they released his company. So I was hauling refrigerated products from Southern California into Toronto on a weekly basis for a company called Loblaws. And
what?
Loblaws was...
Loblaws?
Loblaws was the name of the...
And it was just authority he bought?
Well, it wasn't authority. That was exempt products, since it's refrigerated.
Loblaws. Where'd you come up with that name?
That was the name of the company we hauled for.
Oh, okay. You guys were hauling for them.
Yeah.
What was the name of your company?
Well, mine was MF Leasing.
MF Leasing, Max Moore Leasing.
Right. And my stepbrother, which was from my dad's last marriage also had trucks that he was leasing to the company, but he had less trucks than I did, and he ran operations at Southwest. I did equipment and finance, so he would probably have the upper hand. But it became a contest between he and I who would get freight off the West Coast when the trucks hit out there. So my drivers, we paid them percentage, and my drivers would pick up freight in Southern California and haul Southwest freight going out, but refrigerated stuff coming back. But we'd do into Toronto and then pick up freight up there, sometimes wood products and stuff that would come down into the Southeast. My drivers got very close with the terminal manager in Southern California, and he would hold freight for my drivers. Even though David was over operations, he thought he would have the advantage on getting the best freight. Didn't work that way.
It was the terminal manager that had the relationships with the shippers.
Terminal manager had a relationship with my drivers.
With the drivers. The terminal manager would see what freight was available.
He would hold
and then
freight.
He would basically hold freight for your drivers.
It wouldn't show up in the system till my drivers showed up. And
you weren't even using computers, were you?
We basically had started some computerization, but it's an old IBM System 3. We had
green screens for real.
Well, it's worse than green screens. I mean, we were actually using punch cards to feed the computer.
The old Whopper, that thing that the war games movies.
Remember the tray?
The what?
The tray with the cards, and they had to be in certain.
I remember going to the terminal as a kid, and this was 1983 or 84. I was young because I was born in '79, and I remember going out to the truck terminal, and the things that I remember were the smell of the smoke. First of all, like the clouds of smoke you could see. And you had a wall, and these are just very vague, like very foggy memories. But you had a wall, and you had a stick, and you could move the truck to show where it was or something.
Well, we had hooks, so you move the truck and the trailer across the country from a shipper to the destination.
Literally like a pole, right?
Well, they would do what we call check calls. And they would call in daily and say, I'm in Amarillo.
On a payphone, right?
On a payphone. But they would call and then would move the tag from wherever they were the previous day. So we'd know at least where in some part of the country they were at. It's amazing. People are a lot more honest than we all give them credit for, because, most drivers are where they said they were.
They're checking in. But they also have, after their check call, there's no GPS, there's no track.
You didn't know.
They could do what they want. They can go to the strip club. They could have multiple families for all you knew.
Well, and we tried to keep them away from El Paso because they'd go across the border. Whereas if they ever got over there, they were there for days.
Okay. Got it.
So we wouldn't run.
Senorita that they've hooked up with.
We wouldn't run I-10 because we had to keep them out of El Paso. But so I-40 became our big lane.
Got it.
From coast to coast, and over a period of time, we ended up being one of the large carriers out of Southern California to points east, because we had a lot of teams. There's a point in my career where I had almost 2,000 teams operating, and that was the business that.
But this is later on when U.S. Express was going, right?
Well, U.S. Express got up to 2,000 teams, but Southwest Motor Freight, we had teams there too.
But this is post-deregulation. Were we still regulated at this point?
Well, okay, you're regulated under Southwest.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and like I said, once the interstate system was being created, it opened up new frontiers for all of us, and what freight that we could get and where it could go.
Got it. So David Parker is your brother-in-law. And you
Covenant Transport.
Covenant. He's the founder of Covenant Transport. Very successful.
Right.
Built a very successful business. I had the pleasure of interviewing David Parker at F3. Amazing. Just high energy guy, real smart, real successful. And he credits Clyde with a lot, but he's got Clyde stories too. At some point, I got to get his version of it.
Right.
But you guys are teenage boys. You are your mother. has gone through this pretty divorce, and I imagine she just hates Clyde.
She hates him with purple passion.
And so that rubs off on you as well. You probably have a lot of tension here. And then David, there's a little competition going on between you and David because David's got his own trucks and he wants to get those things loaded because you're trying to beat you. You got the hookup though with the terminal manager.
Right.
Were you paying off the terminal manager? Were you buying them food? What were you doing?
Well, my drivers knew the terminal manager loved a good steak and a good strip joint.
Okay.
So when they were in town, they made sure that they took care of him.
Got it. Okay. Did you pay would you give them the drivers?
No. I basically would say, I pay for the steak, you pay for the strip club.
Okay, but David was not having his drivers go to the strip club, right? Because of his
David didn't know anything about it.
Okay, so Dave was not aware that they're doing this. So you're winning because your drivers are soft bribing the terminal manager.
Right.
Incenting, we'll say, terminal manager, and your guys are getting loaded.
Well, and I'm making a lot of money, and David is struggling a little bit. So there's a day when my dad comes in and says, you got to make a hard decision.
What's the decision?
Either you run your company or you run my company. Which one do you want? Well, obviously I was making more money running his than I was mine. So I decided
yes, sir.
I'd sell my trucks to him, and I'm out of
selling
business.
Trucks to Clyde.
Right.
Okay, because Clyde had given you these trucks to run, right?
He hadn't given them
or
to
he
me.
had financed them.
I had to finance them.
Oh, okay.
On my own.
And how old are you at this point?
No, probably in my early 20s.
You're in your early 20s. David's about the same age or younger?
Well, he's 4 or 5 years younger than I am. So.
Got it.
So, he's probably in his teens at that point. But, we're part of the family, so it's easy for us to get financed.
Gotcha. Okay. so you've got these trucks, you're running them. Tell us about Clyde at this point. How many trucks are we at?
We're probably up to maybe a couple hundred.
And a couple hundred were still regulated?
Still regulated.
Okay.
And we're still trying to buy authority where we can buy it. We're still trying to file for authority to try to get authority. And my dad ends up the toothpick authority out of Welton, Maine. There's a lawyer out of Lincoln, Nebraska that had been handling that case, even though it took so long to get it. My dad ended up hiring the attorney that handled that case for him.
The name Pat Quinn?
Pat Quinn brought him to Chattanooga.
Who becomes your business partner to start U.S. Express.
That's later.
Okay.
But
eventually, yeah.
But he basically works with my dad trying to put this puzzle together of all this ICC
Your dad's
authority.
like, hey, I want to have as many authorities as I can get because that gives me the chance to run the whole country.
Right.
Okay.
So he's shopping for anything that's available that he can buy, and he's also filing for authority at the same time. He tells the story that he could hire the guy cheaper than paying the legal bills,
So yeah.
which was true. So he ended up hiring him full time. So all he's doing is filing for ICC authority, for about a 4 or 5 year period there.
Wow. Okay, so he's filing. Was the deregulation at the time in the 70s, were you guys excited about it or were you worried about it?
We were excited about it.
Because you were big. You had a couple hundred trucks.
We were getting big for the industry. Like I said, most companies were still relatively small.
Yeah.
And because of
Because you don't have the headaches at this point to deal with the authority, right?
Right.
Because Carter signs the act in 1978.
Right.
It goes into effect, the Motor Carrier Act in 1978, goes into effect in 1980.
Right.
Deregulation happens. The industry starts really changing really quickly.
Well, it changed. It started out slow.
Okay.
It was kind of like nobody really knew what you could do and you couldn't do.
Now, I imagine you guys are just doing what the hell you want, right?
Well, we were kind of the people that helped create the truckload industry.
Yeah.
We were the third carrier to get ICC authority general commodities, which was unheard of.
But is this post deregulation?
No, this was at deregulation.
Okay, so when ICC is still in charge of motor carrier rules?
Up until 1980, and then they stayed on for a period of time after
94,
that.
I think, was when they were decommissioned.
Right.
But they were still issuing authorities anyways, right?
Yeah, but when they started issuing 48 state general commodities authorities anywhere to anywhere, that opened.
You guys were number 3, and Southwest Motor Freight was number 3.
We were number 3.
Third in
to get
line.
that.
Do you have by any chance know who the first 2 were?
No, I don't.
Okay, but you guys are now have the authority to run anywhere and everywhere at Southwest Motor Freight. Got a couple hundred trucks under dispatch. Now, back it up a second. Clyde is a bit of a hellraiser.
He also has been.
He's a gambler he's gambling in business. He's willing to skirt the law. He's a cowboy. He was at one point was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up marrying Elizabeth and finds God along the journey.
Well, he ended up being the chairman of the Swaggart Industries later on.
Okay.
But you're getting ahead of it.
We're way ahead of it,
Yeah.
but is he still drinking at this point?
Well, not when he becomes the chairman of
But
Swaggart
before
Industries.
that, in the 70s.
I mean, he's drinking pretty heavy, and about around the time he's getting a divorce from my mom.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So he's drinking, he's gambling, and he has a reputation of, one of the great stories you have told is the story of you were running the books. You were in college as an accounting major.
I was in college, and really wasn't an accounting major, but I'd taken an accounting class.
Okay.
And there was one other person in the office there at Chattanooga Leasing, and she basically was the bookkeeper. So she was teaching me bookkeeping as I was taking accounting classes, which helped me really learn the business. Well, my dad being a big gambler, he basically, once the company had excess cash, he'd go to Las Vegas. And I mean, just like clockwork. Once the checkbook was in the black, he's headed to Vegas. And you had to keep in mind how he did his cash flow, which is a great training for me, especially later on in my career. But when a bill would come in, he'd write the check, he'd put the check in the drawer. Okay, and it'd be in that drawer until somebody called for it. Okay, so he, the checkbook was always kind of in the red, but it really wasn't because we had checks in the drawer. But then
he wanted to hold on to his cash as long as possible.
Right. Well, he had to because you're building a company. You're
cash is king, but he's trying to hold on to it, and is not going to pay his bills quickly.
Well, he was cash poor to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. Through my college deal, I was taking a course in accounting, and I was looking at the value of equipment that he had, and how much equity he had, and then what the depreciation was. So we basically ended up. He came in one day and said he's going to shut the company down. And I convinced him not to because he had equity in equipment that he didn't realize. He was using tax accounting, which was fast depreciation at that point, but the equipment still had a value more than what the depreciated value was.
Okay, so using bonus appreciation to basically, the equipment has been written off. So when he's looking at his financial statements, he's like, I'm losing a lot of money.
He's writing equipment off over a 3-year period, 100%.
Okay.
But still had a value of about 50%.
And he's seeing the P&L. It says he's losing a lot of money.
His tax accountant had spent the weekend with him, and they basically he basically convinced him that he was going broke. Yeah, and they were just looking.
How many trucks were you at this point?
Probably at that point, 100 or so.
Okay. Company's big in these days.
It's big.
One of the biggest trucks. I can imagine 100 truckload trucks.
Right. Mm-hmm.
This would be one of the biggest truckload players in the market.
But this accountant had convinced him that he was going broke. And when he came in, he announced he's shutting the company down. I said, no. I said, you're wrong. So we got into an argument, and I was able to convince him that I was right. And so he basically said, well, I guess we're not shutting the company down.
And
so that was one of my early forays into understanding how financial systems work.
Your observation, and were you in the 70s at this point?
In the 70s.
Your observation was, gosh, I think we've sort of bumped around here. You're in the early 70s,
Mm-hmm.
So this is really early in your career. Your observation was that cash flow company was doing okay, but the
cash flow of the company wasn't doing okay because he was paying equipment off so fast. He was constantly I had to go get titles of paid off equipment occasionally, go to the bank and borrow money, usually a short-term period, but borrow money. So that was a constant deal.
But you had a sense that the business was okay because you had cash.
Well, since I was having to go to the bank with these titles, I was looking at, okay, he's got these paid off. You got these over here he's building a lot of equity in, but he didn't see it that way. He was just looking at what the bank basically is struggling at the bank.
Gotcha.
And then through that accounting class and through the bookkeeper showing me how to keep the books, then I figured out that he really had equity in equipment that he didn't look at. So I ended up coming up with a financing system for him. And he said, the banks won't do that. And I said, yeah, they will. So I ended up doing a financing of 72-month amortization. He was going to keep the equipment 3 years anyway. And it would be paid down to about 50% at 3 years. And that's about what the truck would be worth.
You'd flip
the truck.
New ones.
You pay off the balance of debt on that and you have a new truck. So once I did that, then his cash flow changed big time. And then the company started accelerating in growth.
Okay. And so then Clyde would have that nasty habit
he would have to go to
walking in and taking any cash and take it to Vegas to get
Well, he'd take cash with him, but usually we'd end up wiring money to him.
Because he lost his losses out in Vegas?
Well, he would lose. The guy had a photographic memory. Okay, he could tell you a serial number on a truck or something like that years after he had it. So, he could sit there and count cards. And they figured out that he could beat him anytime he wanted to. In fact, he became such a close friend of the casino manager at the Desert Inn that he was his best man at one of his weddings. So,
wow.
So, but they made a deal that he could come out and he could play anytime he wanted to. They would comp his rooms and they would comp his meals and his shows, but he'd come out and play, and they basically liked the idea, and they said, you can play for any amount that you want to, but you're only going to win $5,000 or you're going to lose $5,000. Well, he'd go out and play, and he'd lose on purpose because he felt like he had to pay for all the things they were doing for him. But it worked for the Desert Inn because they'd hear this guy back in the 70s that was playing a $50,000 or $60,000 hand and losing.
And it was all this money was on the table. And this is, you see these crowds in Vegas. I'm like, this guy is nuts.
Well, and
equivalent to millions of dollars.
People up and down the strip were talking about this high roller that just lost $60,000 and he's still playing.
That's hilarious. Okay.
So he's a great advertisement, for the casino.
Amazing.
And dragging people in. And of course, he's one of these people that sit there almost 24 hours straight playing. They'd bring food to the table for him. He'd have a major suite, one of the best suites that they had there, because he would bring people in.
So Clyde is, now you're keeping the books, and one of the stories that you have told is that you guys would give Clyde a false set of books so that he wouldn't drain the cash.
It was on me. The bookkeeper said, I have nothing to do with this. So I basically told her, I said, I was keeping the checkbook balance and reconciling it. So I learned how to do that at an early age. So I made a $50,000 adjustment to his checkbook balance, which made him feel like he's $50,000 more in the red than he really was.
Yeah. 50,000 poorer.
Because I didn't want him going to Vegas and spending the money that we needed to grow the business.
Got it. Okay, so you're giving him...
I was having to go to the bank with a handful of titles and borrow money on a short-term basis, partially to feed his gambling problem, but also to keep the company going.
Got it. Okay, so you're giving him a false sense of things. You save the company. At one point, he fires you.
Well,
did he fire you more than once?
Let's not get too far. I got fired several times.
Okay, he just walk in and be like, mad at you, and you go off.
Well, to tell the rest of the story on the $50,000 adjustment, he ended up having lunch with a banker 3, maybe 4 months later, and the banker was really bragging about him carrying a good balance and how good he was managing the business. And
he's like, hey, something's different.
And he came back in, and he had this big old Remington 99 calculator that goes clunka, 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 for one calculation almost for a minute. And he's in there punching that thing, and the bookkeeper comes to me and says, you better go and tell him what's happened, because he's got that checkbook and he's in there trying to figure out what's going on. So I go in and I tell him what I did. Well, he hits the ceiling. I mean, he slings things across the room. Don't ever do that to me.
He has an explosive temper.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Now I know where this goes in the family genetic.
I thought I was going to get killed that day. But at the end, he didn't fire me then. At the end, he basically said, okay. He said, just don't ever do that again.
Was he happy was he relieved?
He was happy, but he was pissed.
Did he think someone was stealing from him?
Well, he didn't know. He didn't know. It wasn't people stealing from him.
Did you tell him, hey, dude, I just need to keep this business going?
Well, I basically said I got tired of going to the bank with a handful of titles and begging for money. And I figured out how to fix it, and I did.
A bit of a slush fund here that he wasn't aware of that kept the business running.
Right.
Because he had a nasty habit of going out and blowing the money. His lifestyle was as important as his business, right?
Well, his lifestyle was more important than the business.
Got it. And my understanding of Clyde is, man, he was a hell of a negotiator. Like, that was his thing.
He since he could do numbers in his head, he could out negotiate almost anybody else. Other people, back then you didn't have calculators. Mm-hmm. You didn't carry a calculator with you. And most people were over there trying to do math, kind of like you did in grammar school, to try to keep up with him. And of course, he already knows the answer, so he's out negotiating them. And a lot of guys, when they come in there, they're excited when they get the deal, but when they figure out what the deal was, they weren't so excited because they left too much money.
He outfoxed him. He
outplayed him.
Now, was he really detailed in the business that he knew every operational deal? I mean, obviously he didn't know the cash situation, but the operations of the business.
He knew enough to keep it legal.
Were you more as you just sort of took?
Well, I'm the guy that basically said we have to do it systematically. It has to be done this way. You have to have departments, and my stepmom basically, she kind of agreed with a lot of stuff as we were creating the business. And
she also wanted to keep him reined in, I imagine.
Well,
right?
she later on, when we got into Southwest, was keeping the books at that point. And I was more, like I said, finance, equipment, and operations to a certain extent.
Got it. Thank you for listening to Fuller Speed Ahead. Check back next week for part 4 of our interview with my father, U.S. Express founder Max Fuller, about his personal history in the trucking industry. Stay tuned.